Hi everyone, it's Donovan again. So I was having some more thoughts like over the Last Jedi and stuff in this new trilogy, the sequel trilogy. Technically after watching other reviews and stuff, after I saw this movie, I was just like I said, I was pretty disappointed in this movie. Just what they did with everything just did not make any sense whatsoever. Um, I think I meant, well, yeah, I mentioned in my previous video that this new trilogy should have been on the Yushing Vong War. Just, because it would be something new. They're not retreading over the original, trilogy. They're not taking plot points and lines and stuff and put them in this sequel trilogy. Which, when you watch The Last Jedi, which, spoiler alert, you know, Ray is going to the supremacy, the pretty much it's the capital, like the headquarters of the First Order, which doesn't make any sense. The ship like that, at least Starkiller base, I guess that made sense, but you kind of like want a planet, like a base and stuff to be it, but not not a ship, not a mobile base like that. Just, but got destroyed by Vice Admiral Holdo, taking the cruiser, turning around and going into hyperspace and ramming it right into that ship, which I believe is possible because if you remember from A New Hope, how Han was saying, you don't put in the coordinates correctly and stuff, you can jump right into like an asteroid or something or like a planet or whatever, which would destroy the ship. I so I think it is possible to use hyperspace as a weapon. It's just no one ever want to do it because you end up dead if you're not careful, like where you're going stuff. Um, and also, I was watching a video from the John Campea show where how everyone's saying Rey's a Mary Sue. She technically is a Mary Sue. But then how he was comparing her to Luke and stuff because how she just has all these abilities and stuff, and was not trained or anything like that, and how he was trained to compare Rey to Luke, which there's no comparison because Luke, one, is the son of Anakin Skywalker, who is a talented who as quoted by Obi-Wan was like the best starfighter pilot in the galaxy, and he was a good friend and a cunning warrior. Um, Luke inherited those traits pretty much from his father. But, he was also, becoming a good pilot himself in the Outer Rim, flying that T6, like, Skyhopper or something like that, out there. Is it a T6 or T16? Like, I don't exactly remember what he said to that one pilot, but, you know, how, he was shooting those womp rats that were, like, no bigger than 2 meters, because the whole Death Star thing, the ventilation shaft, um, was for the destruction of the Death Star and all that stuff. But the first one, and how Luke was able to use the Force stuff. Well, I mean, and like he's kind of contradicting himself on that video, which he's trying to protect this woman and stuff, this character and all that stuff. Just I think for his liberal viewage reasons and stuff. He is a quite he is a liberal, and he is trying to protect this SJW bullshit and stuff, which you can have political stuff in movies and stuff, but Star Wars, it's never made sense really to have that in Star Wars. you know um but after also going over a couple days of thoughts on this movie, it pretty much came to the point where it's like I'm done watching Star Wars movies. It's just, especially what was it? There was this book called Phasma, where they made her a really badass character in that book, and then they're just making her a throwaway character. It's like there's no point in reading these books and stuff if you're just gonna make these characters a joke and stuff. It's just, I don't know. But so there are just some things in it I would do differently with this trilogy, especially like with this movie. Instead of like you know having the First Order chase or pursue after the Resistance, to the planet Crate that has this old Rebel Alliance base there, which everyone is pretty much saying, why did Vice Admiral Holdo not just tell Poe the plan and stuff, just brief everyone, this is what we're going to do and stuff, like, and plus, you had those other ships that could have just, done the hyperspace jump into the First Order fleet. Like, I'm kind of confused, but although I think it just wouldn't have worked. I don't. Well, and that's the thing, though. If you think about, I don't know if it could have worked or not. Maybe or something. I don't know, but because when those transport ships are getting destroyed, the First Order's attention is on those ships, and so that she's able to kind of like use that to her advantage and stuff. But anyways, I don't know. Maybe they could have or something. Use one of those frigates to, you jump into hyperspace and ram the First Order fleet. But it's this whole thing where they're chasing them and stuff, and with that whole tracking technology and stuff, which they don't go into too much detail and stuff, but they could have just gone into a little bit like how this works, because I don't think it's ever touched in Star Wars Legends, but at all. But they don't exactly have to do everything from Legends and stuff. And it's new trilogy, which they technically did, because Kylo Ren is pretty much Darth Caedus. He is Jason Solo. They took the Ben thing from Ben Skywalker. Rey is in a way Jaina Solo, but she's not a Solo. All this and that, blah 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 blah. Because she was left on Jakku, which is technically also in a way Tatooine in another way, which is stupid. They should have put her actually, I think, on Nar Shaddaa. It would have been something different, because I don't. We've only been to that planet in the video games and in the comic books, and I think in the books as well. And I think that would have been something different, just because it was a planet controlled by the Hutts. But it's one of those places that no one would actually even think to go to look for Rey, who I think should have been, a Kenobi. It would have been nice, and she didn't have to be a Skywalker. I mean, you can only do so much with the Skywalker family, because the whole saga is on this family. Their the problems and stuff are, based around it. But there's like Starkiller, Galen Merrick, and then you got the Sean family from Revan and Bastila Sean from the Knights of the Old Republic, and then that one apprentice, the former apprentice of Revan, that female. I forget what her name was. But there was her character stuff, but it's always, and then you got the Darth Bane trilogy with these characters and stuff, but it hasn't always, just at least in the movies, it hasn't. But Jyn Erso's family just sucks. Like that whole, I'm not a fan of Rogue One, but anyways, back onto the point. I mentioned the Yuuzhan Vong war. I think that would have been the better direction actually to go. I know in the New Jedi Order, because that's where it's at, that whole series, Chewbacca dies, Anakin Solo dies, and because of that, kind of leads towards, Jason Solo becoming Darth Caedus, and, the whole new reemergence of this other, like, Galactic Federation or something like that, or something else that comes about with Lumia, which I think Lumia, they want strong females and stuff. You should have had Lumia, who was like a former, kind of like Mara Jade Skywalker. She was also like one of the hands of the Emperor, like, which would have been, actually I think would serve so much better than Snoke, because Snoke's just this guy who comes from the unknown regions and stuff. At least from what I heard, that he's just some guy from out there, which I'm like, well, is he the Sith Emperor? Was it Vitiate? Is he that guy that, who's been, body hopping and stuff for, thousands of years, to this point where, he's now sees the opportunity to, make a new Sith Empire, just name it the First Order or something like that, which would have been pretty cool if that was the way that they were going. But no, but I think actually, you know, the First Order should just not exist. Period. Like it doesn't make sense because in military history, especially just, but the way how they end Episode 6, pretty much the Empire is dead. No one's gonna be friends, with, you know, any Imperial remnants. No one is, except in the unknown regions where I don't know if the Chiss ascendancy would, be helpful at all with, the what remains of the Empire, because pretty much you got these books and stuff that the Empire is pretty much gone and stuff, or they've fleed into the unknown regions. But you would think that what remains, the Rebel Alliance, the New Republic, would literally just go after them and stuff and not let them flee, because you don't want your enemies coming back. Like it didn't make any sense, but they do this just because they can't think anything new. Like we have to repeat the original trilogy. It's like, no, you don't really have to. You can just create something completely new. Think of a new enemy and don't reuse the original trilogy's storyline and stuff. Just don't do it. Don't take any plot points or anything like that, because like like I was saying earlier, I get sidetracked in all my thoughts, but with Rey going to the Supremacy and trying to get Kylo Ren to come back, she's like, I can feel the conflict within you. I'm like, don't reuse lines. Like when you do that, it just shows how unoriginal you are. You're especially when they're showing the destruction of these transport ships. I'm like, that's Return of the Jedi. Like I was getting so annoyed. When this movie was over, I was looking down. I'm like, this movie sucks. And I was, a few people clapped, which is fine. If you like it, then you like bullshit. I mean, you really like bad movies. I'm sorry. If you like this movie, there's something actually fundamentally wrong with you, like down to the core. There is. I'm sorry. There just is. There is no way anyone can like this crap. It's bad. When you're especially making Poe look like an idiot, and Finn's, what he was about to do, a heroic sacrifice, be completely, shoot away, push out of the way just because Rose likes this guy and stuff. But Rose is a completely unneeded character. She did not need to exist. I think Finn, Poe should have had this plan where it just should have been these two guys. That's it. And Finn's just like, all right, I'm gonna go and look for some code cracker, to, disable this transport and stuff. But what is so weird? Finn, being part of the FN Stormtrooper Corps section, he was the sanitation guy on the Starkiller base, okay? But he was also doing sanitation on the Supremacy as well. I'm like, that's called plot convenience. Like, I thought he was just stationed on the Starkiller base, but he was also on Supremacy too. It's like, the thing though is that if these stormtroopers were taken in as children, wouldn't you want to, like, I don't know, have some sort of tracking devices to make sure all your troops are accounted for and everything? That way you know what's going on. I mean, because you can, excuse me, you can have a list on something like that, and it doesn't make sense. He, like, it just doesn't work like that. It's like, they would have to maybe find a defector, or someone maybe who helped build the ship, perhaps, which, again, also, oh my gosh, sorry, excuse me. I talk too long and my throat starts to get dry. As I was saying, thinking, someone who, they can find someone who built the ship or help, who has the blueprints or something like that. Maybe they go buy or whatever. But again, that would kind of be like borrowing the plot from Rogue One and stuff in a way too. Which, that kind of puts this movie in a pickle. It's like, well, like what's going on. Especially, if they got them on the end of the string, like why didn't the First Order go into a flanking position where they had ships on the other side? Because I was thinking that. I'm like, well, okay, you got them here. Are you gonna put them like in a corner or stuff, like where they can't escape and stuff? Which, again, that's repeating Return of the Jedi. So, Christ Almighty. Oh my gosh, I just, this movie's so stupid. Like them killing off Luke, which didn't make sense. Especially when I forgot to cover this in my previous video, but this has been covered by other videos as well that just don't like this movie as myself. Is when Luke decides to go kill his own nephew, which, like, that doesn't make sense. I know, Luke is not Mace Windu, and stuff. I know there's a well, this might be a Legends thing, but when you take out your lightsaber and you are ready to kill and stuff. But the other thing though is, I think that's said in there is, you're not supposed to kill anyone who's unarmed. Like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not the Jedi way. But of course, Luke gets this, which is actually this thing. I think it's in the third one where Anakin goes to Yoda to tell him about these visions or whatever that he's having, pretty much on Padme with her death coming up, which I think Luke was having that sort of thing happening when that he needs to learn to let go or whatever, or something like that, or like it's the actions that he takes out of fear. It's the fear pretty much that his own fear that created Kylo Ren, pretty much, in a way. When you think about it, it was his own fear, like how Anakin's fear pretty much, he created, how it led him down to the dark side and stuff and all that. So there's a similar, so they're kind of also in a way borrowing a plot point from the prequel trilogy too, when you think about that. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, this movie is not original whatsoever. I mean, there's original things in it, but it's also meddled, but it's mixed with stuff from the past 6 movies and stuff. So, it's not taking anything from Force Awakens, which it didn't. There's no Knights of Ren at all, which didn't make any sense. But also, here's this one thing though. That doesn't make sense. Why would Snoke be involved in the pursuit of anything with the the Resistance? Especially when he's there. It's pretty much just repeating Return of the Jedi. It's like, why aren't you in the unknown regions, and letting Kylo Ren and General Hux deal with this? Which, I think General Hux should have, in my opinion, died with Starkiller Base, because he was in charge of that installation. So I don't know if he's because that's all it makes out to be, is that he's just in charge of that installation, unless he was in charge of other things too, which I don't know. It's just the way how he was established, the character wise, that he was just in charge of that installation. And Kylo, well, I don't know. It's a bit iffy with this character. I think he should have actually died in The Force Awakens, and then someone new should have came in and taken over and stuff. Just a new character. Also, the other thing, actually, I think that would have been cool too. How in all these movies, you have from one side, except there's this short, which I'll talk about in just a minute or so. But in the original trilogy and in the prequels, they have all these heroic, starfighter pilots, but on the good side. And I think, and in this new, sequel trilogy that they got going on, they got Poe, who is like, the new Wedge Antilles. I'm like thinking to myself, what would be cool is that they actually had a really good, TIE fighter pilot, for the First Order, a character like that. Maybe they could have done something like that for Phasma or something. I don't know. I don't know, but she's only just in charge of the stormtroopers, which you make this character look cool and stuff, but they just make her a throwaway character, like I've mentioned already, which is just a disappointment. Especially how they want these women to have more presence, which is kind of stupid. How they always in this trilogy, Kathleen Kennedy does have an agenda. It's obvious and it's been mentioned before, but people like to say no, she doesn't there's no agenda. No, there is an agenda for Kathleen Kane. And George Lucas has mentioned, as I think the video that you want to watch on this stuff I referred to, the way, I mean there's others, but there's like the Scoundrels Cantina, which they do a pretty good job hitting the nail on the head with this stuff. But just making with Kathleen Kane wanting the women be more superior and the men look stupid or whatever. And it just with the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, you have Padme, and who was a senator and stuff, and she was a queen, and they made her a great female character, but she was equal to the guys and stuff and all that. She wasn't better. Everyone was on an equal level playing field. And same thing with the original trilogy, especially with Leia, who was fantastic. In those movies, she was a leader and stuff. She was well respected, but as she, there was like just that equalness and stuff in the original trilogy with her character and everyone else around her. She didn't make it like, well, that like I'm better than you. There was something like that, but you get that from Vice Admiral Holo. It's like I'm better than you. I don't have to tell you shit, Poe, and stuff. Like you caused this stuff to happen by not following orders and stuff. So they're making the guys just look stupid. They made and they didn't know really what to do with Finn, but they should have just had Finn go off on his own quest or something like that, or him and Poe. But then there's also this other thing, where Poe all of a sudden knows how to fly a speed or whatever. He knows how to become a pilot, which doesn't make sense. And it's not something that you just learn like that. It actually takes practice and stuff. That's how it is in the world. If there's two separate things. If you're a soldier, there's a difference between being a soldier, an infantryman, and then there's between that and a pilot, a fighter pilot. Like those are two totally separate things. With a fighter pilot, they're trained in some basic ground combat stuff, just in case if their plane gets shot, they have to eject and survive on their own until help comes. There's that thing. So they're capable of doing those two things. But a soldier, a stormtrooper and stuff, they have no basic knowledge or whatever, the knowledge needed to fly a TIE fighter or anything like that. They don't know how that works, because in The Force Awakens, all he knows how to do is just shoot that turret on the Millennium Falcon, and that's pretty much it. But and then there's Rey knowing how to fly that too, which I'm gonna also say another thing. She knows how to use a land speeder and stuff, but she doesn't know how to fly a ship. Like, she's not a pilot. Like, she's not, that, which is just one of those things, makes her a Mary Sue. She just somehow knew to fly one of those things. Like, did you take it for a test? Like, because she was going to get in one of those other ships, but it got blown up. Like, did you fly it at any point, or what? Like, because they never go on that, where, it's, I guess it's implied or whatever, but they never really go into depth, saying that, she knows how to be a pilot. So, but, and then there's a whole pretty much throne room scene, which, if you kind of think about it in a way, it's also kind of somewhat on the level taking stuff from episode 3, where you had Anakin and Obi-Wan, fighting the droids, and, kind of like that. I mean, there's been nothing like that, of course, before, but it's kind of subtly taken from that part, of course. But um, you know, Rey, getting the lightsaber, fighting that she, at that set, that point of the action and stuff that's going on. She only took a few swings or whatever with that lightsaber. It's not like she really knows how to use it. Luke knew how somewhat, how to use his lightsaber, for the first confrontation between himself and his father and the Empire Strikes Back, because which, this is something that John Campea, he contradicted himself on this point, because he's saying, how Luke only trained 5 minutes with the lightsaber and stuff and all that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, because I remember Han saying that for the point that they're at, to get to Alderaan takes 12 hours or something like that. So Luke had that time period of training with the lightsaber, but knowing the Force, too. So, it's I respect John Campea, his show and stuff, but when he says these things and stuff, it's like, do you not know how stupid you sound right now? He's a bambling idiot at times. It's true. He really doesn't, he's not thinking, or he's saying these things just because, he's so far to the left or whatever, or something like that, that everyone just needs to like Rey or something like that he's just tired of, I don't know, he just likes his ego or something like that, but yeah, she didn't really have the proper training like that. Luke did. He had the 12 hours plus between episode 4 and 5, because there's books and comic books, where it's pretty much, saying that Luke had additional training and stuff. He was teaching himself to use these things and all that. So, there's just those minor things, to help him stuff. How he got better. But and here's the thing with The Last Jedi, at least, instead of the First Order pursuing the Resistance, because when you think about it, that Starkiller base, which was pretty much their main thing and stuff, and then it's not really spoken on how many ships they have, at least in these movies, but I can't imagine that they have that much. But with that thing gone and stuff, the attack on Hosnian Prime, this doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't every available fleet or whatever, or something who, Resistance, but then other people will join the Resistance to make a new Republic fleet and pursue the First Order and go after them into the unknown regions? That's what should have happened. What should have happened is, in this movie, there should have been a timeline period. It says, the Resistance and some allies, or whoever, probably Mandalorians would have helped them out too, because Mandalore has always wanted to be independent. They're not just gonna want the First Order coming knocking down on their door and stuff. You need, now you're part of the First Order. That just, because they're, they were in the Clone Wars TV show. They're in Rebels. There's a part of them, that joined the Empire because they want to get back to their old former selves, the true, the old Mandalorian ways and stuff. But there's this one side that does not want that. They want to be peaceful and diplomatic stuff. So, which I think should have happened. The Mandalorians joins the Resistance and whomever else, maybe the Hutts, I guess. Some smugglers, whatever. They band together, make it their own fleet, and they pursue the First Order into the unknown regions and stuff, and they're going after them, and then maybe they get to this point where maybe Finn and Poe, or at least Finn, they said, hey, we're heading to the unknown regions, we need someone who can help us, who's been there or whatever, and help us navigate. They could have done this for that DJ character, or the person that they were really, Rose were supposed to go find, or they could have gotten Lando Calrissian. For myself, though. I think they should have had a descendant of Revan. Because when you think about it, Revan is like the one guy who's gone into the unknown regions and stuff, and all that, and what's in there. Originally it was a bunch of Sith and stuff, but there's the Chiss Ascendancy, which is probably loyal to the First Order and stuff in there, so you're probably going to want to have, some backup and stuff, because, that's where Thrawn is from. I know there's like other species or whatever that are in there, so, but, maybe Finn, not Rose. Screw that character. She is completely worthless, and I'm like, I'm watching her. It's like, man, can someone kill this character like now, please? Like, she is annoying as fuck, and I'm just like, get rid of her character, please. But yeah, Finn should have gone after probably like a descendant of Revan and Bastila Shan, who has like, thousands of years of, navigational charts, records, and stuff of planets that exist in there that can help navigate, into the unknown regions, because, it's unknown. So the Republic probably doesn't have, those records and stuff. Probably because, if the First Order is going in there, or like what remains of the Empire is going in there, they're probably, they probably have the only records into the unknown regions and stuff, probably given to them by Thrawn himself. Just saying, like at least what he knows. So you need someone to go in there, but as they are or something like that, probably what I think should happen is they get to this fortified planet or whatever, like this heavily, fortified base or something like this. This kind of like like a shield world, like from the Halo series. And there's a nice ground war, dirty grit battle and stuff on the ground and all that, and then there's a nice space battle above and stuff. Something like that. And in the meantime, though, give some time to pass, like say weeks or whatever, or days or something like that. And and have Rey, in this thing where she's like, at the time, do a flashpoint or something, whatever, to say, Rey was there, she gave the lightsaber to Luke or something like that, and just had this moment, where, Luke just says to Rey, like, well, this lightsaber was once mine, but it has chosen you, because the kyber crystals, resonate with the Force and stuff. So, the lightsaber chose Rey to be its new owner. Like, I think that's what should have happened. So it's like, this was once mine, but this is now yours and stuff. It has passed on to you. It's it's chosen you. And have Luke with his old green lightsaber, and and then just do something where they're training stuff where Rey is trained to become a Jedi. I think, especially with that map, that whole thing, it doesn't make sense. Luke, I don't think, the original idea, I think for J.J. Abrams, he was probably there to find answers of something, to help him, to guide him, to rescue his nephew, and, how to defeat the Sith or whatever, or something. Some ancient, he should have been there for some sort of ancient knowledge or whatever, to to find answers that would help him, with the situation that led to Ben Solo becoming Kylo Ren. Because what happened in this movie with the flashback of what Luke decided to do is not something that Luke would do. It's just not in his character at all, because he pretty much goes on a suicide mission. He surrenders himself to the Empire to save his father and stuff, to turn him back. Which you see this and he's trying to kill his own nephew. It's like, this isn't. He's not Mace Windu. Mace Windu would do something like this, maybe. There's a good chance that Mace Windu would do something like that. But Luke is not Mace Windu. You know what I mean? Like, Mace, was taking the steps to kill Darth Sidious stuff, which people like, man, he should have done or whatever. But anyways, but it's just there's this thing in there where it does not work. And sorry, I got these damn notifications from Google Chrome that I just hate. They just there and then they don't go away unless you click the X thing, which I think I'm gonna have to turn those off. If I can, I don't know if I can. But anyways, the movie's just flawed. I mean, I think that would have been better. If at least my first idea is just the Yusheng Bong War. You can't then there's just no way they could pretty much reuse anything from the original trilogy, because George Lucas, this is why as much as I don't like the prequels, there's still something I like about them. It's because it was before the Empire, before the Galactic Civil War, and new worlds, new ships and stuff, and all these things. He introduced something new. The only thing new is, well, these are newer versions of the Empire, the Galactic Empire ships. I mean, that's about it. And Stormtroopers still, I mean, there's nothing new. It should have been the Yuuzhan Vong. It would be something new, where the New Republic, is fighting these creatures and stuff with the help of whomever will assist them, and for the freedom of that galaxy from enslavement and stuff, pretty much, So, and that's, in my opinion, that would work. But I think, for the Force Awakens, just have it where it's not on Jakku. Don't repeat the desert planet crap. Just have her on Nar Shaddaa, parade. And then, Han Solo leaving just because his son turned to the dark side and leaving Leia all on her own. That's not something that Han would really do. Now, I know in the Battlefront 2 game, he didn't want to deal with Leia and stuff and all that. He wanted to go off and back and do his own thing because, there's his own victory and his own mission to do to help, Chewbacca go to Kashyyyk and free the Wookiees and stuff. But, then there's that point afterwards. But, it's just not in his character, at least. It never really was, because he was actually, he was in love with Leia. He actually fell in love with her and stuff and all that. And, he even... But they just go on a whole sidetrack thing that's just... They're taking complete 180. He was going one direction, but then he went back the other way. So, I mean, it's like, we're all back to the way how we originally were and stuff, and just... But, I think Han should have been with the Resistance or something like that, at least. And he's there, I would have to think of a new whole story and stuff, but at least, Rey at least would not be a nobody. She would be a somebody and stuff, and Han's like, Rey, why does that name sound familiar to me or something like that, but instead of her being there from the point of a child, because I'm not exactly sure the period of, from when Kylo, where Ben Solo becomes Kylo and all that stuff, and where Luke goes to the island. I'm not sure exactly where the time period is, but they could have had it where Luke was also, I think Rey should have been one of the students at least, and and then they just put her on Nar Shaddaa, just or something like that. Maybe Luke decides to have Han or whomever, you know, get Rey out of there and wipe her mind or something like that, give her a new identity and everything, set something up, and you know, and they're on Narsa. At least she's safe. She's with all these other people and stuff. So, but because it's just the way how she was set up. It's like, okay, so she's a somebody. She's a descendant of someone or whatever. But in this one, she's the child of nobody. It's like, oh, Mary Sue. Then okay, so. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. With this movie, at least in what this trilogy, just The Force Awakens. Sure, I still like it somewhat or whatever. I don't know. I mean, the more I think about it, it's like, man, it's like great visual effects and stuff. You had a story that was, in a way, treading along that movie, but okay. And this movie is just blatantly taking plot points from two movies. I'm like, and I believe stuff from the third one, as I mentioned before. So I'm like, really? Like, the hell? Like, what is going on here? So, I mean, it's just one of those things. And, what they did to Snoke is completely stupid, especially with the fact, like, as I said, he could feel their thoughts and stuff, and, like, I know your every move, stuff. Kylo Ren flicking the lightsaber and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I know there's been things in, these movies where, the Jedi are focused or whatever and they don't sense something else happening, that's going to happen, which, the power levels, like, at times get, like, mixed. It's like, I thought Snoke was supposed to be this all omnipresent, benevolent, being or whatever and stuff. Like, he was supposed to be all powerful, and Kylo was just below him. But it's like they flip places right there for a second. So, like, I don't know. And then somehow, for some reason, I think there should, in all honesty, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like Kathleen Kennedy, is in that throne room part, Rey should have been the one struggling the most. Because I know they had this thing where someone was saying, like, well, she was on this desert planet, Jakku, fighting and stuff, like, but she was fighting against people who were basic level fighters or whatever and stuff, just, who knew how to do basic stuff. But she's going against this Praetorian Guard, these elite guards that are there guarding Snoke. So they are trained, like they're like League of Assassins Batman level trained. That kind of training, okay? And Rey somehow just bests them after a few, I don't know, like, I would say the amount of time she was swinging that lightsaber, let's give her, like, maybe she was doing it for 30 minutes or something like that, or a few minutes or something, I don't know. But, that doesn't make her, like, somewhat great or whatever to take on these guys. I mean, she should have been the one struggling, and Kylo would have been the one just, like, whipping, their butts, kicking ass and stuff, like, because he's the guy who's been trained the most in how to fight with the lightsaber and stuff. So it should have been him whipping their butts and stuff, and Rey just like, man, like, I'm barely, holding on here and stuff. I'm just struggling with this. Like, that's how it should have gone. Like, just because people say, oh, well, she was fighting her whole, life and stuff to survive and stuff. Like, yeah, but against guys that barely knew how to fight, or just, basic fighters, against these elite dudes that would, if I was trying to fight, like, they would mop the floor with my head, or mop the floor with me. Sorry, it's just, when you think about it as a whole with these two movies and stuff and everything, it just doesn't add up well. Like, her character is literally just a Mary Sue. It's she's the character that can do pretty much anything just because. So, it doesn't make sense. You know, and then the bombing sequence and stuff, just which doesn't make sense though, because the Y-wings, when they're shooting their proton torpedoes or whatever it is, bombs, when there's a ship over here and they're flying, they have to come up in a way and make the bombs hit their targets and stuff. Not sorry, I was having the dryer go. Not where it's these other bombers are like B-52s and stuff, and have to drop them on, which doesn't make sense because in space there's no gravity. I know ships have their own gravity in sci-fi, but that's because I think it's because of the shields is what creates that gravity, and this dreadnought has no shields. So if the bombs were going down, then the bombs should have been away scattered or something like that. At least like they should have been spraying across the ship, for this dreadnought. Because if it didn't have any shields for whatever reason, which doesn't make any sense unless they had to, if they say we had to power down the shields in order to charge up this weapon and stuff, then they should have said something like that. And I hate having to make these excuses for these things that could have just been easy written or something like that. But, especially with that, Rose's sister that was in there, there was that one guy who had that breather on, because he's pretty much right there and stuff. But there was no, ray shields or anything like that, for the bombs to go through or anything like that. So when she's there, I mean, technically she should be dead or whatever. I don't know. Stupidity runs in the minds of Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy for some reason. I know people like to say this is Disney's fault. I don't think so, because if you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what Kevin Feige's doing with it, they're producing good content and stuff. They're making good movies. But because Disney is just the distributor of these things. Disney has other things. They let these movie studios kind of run off and do their own things, but they will intervene if what they see from their movie studios isn't kind of like what they like. But what, because Kathleen Kennedy is the one who's what's is the driving force pretty much. She's the one with the vision and stuff where she wants us to go. And as it's been said before by her, she wants women to have more prominent, she wants more women and stuff in this. Which, like, okay, if you want, diversity and you want more women, like, hey, I'm cool with that. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Don't have a problem with the women, Lord of the Rings and stuff, and Galadriel, is amazing. Although there was that one elf female in the trilogy, the woman from Lost, who was in, I forget what her character's name is, but like her character technically didn't need to be there because it just set up a love interest and a love triangle that did not need to be there and stuff and all that crap. So, and I don't think, I know there was like people who were confused with the female Starbuck for the Battlestar Galactica, the new series, the 2004 series or what that came out. I know people were confused by that, but then I think liking her character. I think I only saw like a couple episodes of that series and stuff. I know my dad liked it, but anyways, it's just, they're trying to make the women look better than the guys, which I'm like, I wouldn't go down that road because, first of all, it's the guys that gave you this job, Kathleen. Like, remember, Star Wars was created by George Lucas, and George was kind enough to give you this, and then you're just kind of like, ooh, like, I got this new toy, I'm going to do whatever I want with it. I'm not going to care about the rest of the crap that George created and stuff, and
I'm just like, ew, like I don't care and all that stuff. Like that's pretty much how it is. Because you look at these, you know, the movies, and then Battlefront 2 with all these women. I'm like, ooh man, like there's like women. It's like, slow down, take a breath. Does not have to all be about women. Rogue One is a movie I just do not like. That was actually the first um, new Star Wars movie I just did not like, because the story of it I already knew, and I have mentioned this I think before in my previous videos. The whole thing with Kyle Katarn is the guy who stole the Death Star plans. Like, you told the story once before in your Legends, you're doing it again, but instead of the dude, you're replacing it with the woman. Like, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just have the guy, or just make that stuff canon. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know. It's just, this stuff is stupid. Now they got this they got the Han Solo movie that's come out, which is not necessary. You had 3 Han Solo books. Just make those canon, or something at least, or just take the plots or whatever, and then just write a new story up out of those books. Just do that, because I don't think anyone really needs a movie on Han Solo. Like, that doesn't make sense. But they want to do it anyways. So, like, it's whatever, man. I don't care. If you want to do that, that's your business and stuff. Just have fun driving to the ground. I know my dad said something about how Disney's gonna drive us to the ground, but it's not Disney. It's not Disney. It's Kathleen Kennedy who's driving into the ground. And yeah. I don't know. I think we'll wrap this up here. It's almost like another hour-long video. And just another little rant thing. But yeah, like, this movie just really doesn't work. I think The Force Awakens, at least, have it start with it being on Last Jedi. Have Rey be the descendant of Kenobi, because you can have it where, in the Clone Wars stuff, they could have had, where was it, Satine? So, like, the Duchess of Mandalore, who was killed by Darth Maul. Like, that woman, Kenobi, could have had like a child, and maybe he was like the heir to that planet, and maybe he was taken off world just for his own safety. And I think another thing that could have worked too, just to also make, well, she wouldn't actually be a Skywalker, but she would be related to that family in a way. Well, she would be through, because Padme's sister had children. So I think if you could have taken like one of those kids, and also then make one of those kids Rey's mother, because they were both females, so that would have worked too. Because then it also kind of like, it would make Rey in a way, I guess, royalty too. So you can have her in a way be like Leia, and I guess like Luke as well, like two things at once. So. But they should have just had like, so, I don't know, between whatever happened at that Jedi Temple, the new one that Luke set up, and The Force Awakens, they should have just had where Rey is as she is, as we saw her, but she was a somebody, and then on Nar Shaddaa, I don't know. I mean, they could have made her someone low level, whatever, for a worker or something like that, or working in a diner maybe, or something. With this her, she had her memory wiped or something like that, and then, and then maybe she was having dreams or something like that as she slept. Memories of her time at the academy and stuff, and before coming to the planet. So. I think that's something that could have worked. And then she, like, on the planet, perhaps, what the First Order is doing something like, which I think what would have been cool is like instead of making another damn Death Star, the First Order with Lumia as the leader, because I just don't get this. She wants women to be you know in front or something like that, or at least have a presence. Like I think it should have all been on equal level playing field. But Lumia should be the one leading the First Order, not Snoke. Like, not Snoke, okay? Like, if they want to do Snoke, but as a guy coming from the unknown regions, you're technically in a way saying he is the Sith Emperor, because the Sith Emperor and stuff came from the unknown regions. He was out there for so long. I mean, he's the only it's the only thing when you like if you play like Star Wars: The Old Republic and stuff like the Knights of the Republic stuff and read into that stuff. Snow kind of like falls into that. He's kind of like that character pretty much. So, for me, that's the only thing in a way that makes sense. But which I think is the route they should have gone. And then have this character Sean in The Last Jedi. Reveal like, oh wait, I know who that is. That's like the Sith Emperor stuff. And then had this cool saber fight between Sean and Kylo Ren and stuff. And Sean has like a double bladed lightsaber like his ancestors, like Satele and Bastila and stuff. And do a cool fight like that where he just comes in and kicks some ass and whatnot. And fights Snoke and rescues Rey and stuff. I mean, because like it's just even though like it would have been a time where she's training and stuff, she still would. I mean, unless Luke helps her remember who she is, because I think then that's another thing that they could have done. Is maybe although I think another thing though is that for me I would have had actually Ben Skywalker and Jaina and Mara Jade at least there as like Mara Jade Skywalker, who was like one of the former Emperor's hands, and the wife of Luke, be like kind of like the acting Grandmaster, or at least just a a Jedi Knight and a bodyguard to Leia at least. I think you would also have Ben and Jaina there too, as they're trying to help the Resistance and stuff against the battle against the First Order. And instead of Ben Solo, just make it Jason and not Kylo Ren, but Darth Caedus, and because it's always like been the Darths, the Sith Lords and stuff. That's at least if I remember correctly, that's how it's always been. Well, not necessarily. There was Exar Kun who didn't call himself Darth or anything like that. He just called himself Exar Kun. There might have been others. I don't know. They could either go with Darth Caedus or Kylo Ren, and then either the disciples of Caedus or the Knights of Ren, whichever you prefer. But I guess I could do the Kylo Ren and Knights of Ren thing. But you would need to at least also have the Knights of Ren have a more prominent role in this new trilogy too, because they just threw those guys away. Like, I think they should have been in The Force Awakens a bit more, where there was something where Kylo dispatches them or something like that. Like maybe that's how he either he's the I guess you can have where he's there on Nar Shaddaa looking for a map to Skywalker, who left just because I don't know. It's just, but again, that's something that Luke wouldn't do. But you can at least make it where he's at he comes to Acto, which I think should have been Tython, but it is what it is, and he's there looking for answers and stuff. But to deal with this new threat or something like that. He just needs time to figure out and recollect himself from his failures and just learn from that. Because the Jedi aren't bad and stuff, and but anyways, yeah. Well, look, I'm just gonna say, at least for the Last Jedi, they should have just done it in a reverse kind of way where, the Resistance, with some help from whomever, is chasing the First Order into the unknown regions and stuff. They get to this shield world or whatever, a fortified planet, where there's at least a good, solid chunk of the movie, both in space and on the planet, make it dirty and gritty and stuff, war kind of thing and all that, and then you have it where they defeat the First Order there or something, or they're blown back or something, but at least actually make it where they defeat the First Order and then they're continuing their pursuit into the unknown regions and stuff and all that. So it'd just be easier like that, at least for this movie. But yeah, that's my thoughts and everything. There's probably more I've got on there, but I don't want to get into a whole 2-hour thing with it and stuff, so I'll just leave it at this. But yeah, maybe I'll just do something separate from this video for just The Force Awakens, because at least the Knights of Ren should have been having a prominent role. Like, they should have been like something where they're following him, or Kylo dispatches them or something like that. Kind of like like the Nazgul, like that. Sauron, has his Nazgul do these tasks and stuff for him, to go get the One Ring and stuff. Like, it's like, well, why can't Kylo Ren task his Knights of Ren to go do certain things and stuff? It doesn't make sense. Like, I think, when there was the Battle of Takunda that was going on, instead of Kylo Ren being there, like, maybe his Knights of Ren or one of them, whatever, should have been there and stuff, and to collect, the droid or whatever, I don't know, kind of like, because it's like, well, the Knights of Ren, are they like the Inquisitors then and stuff, or like, kind of minor things like that, but it's whatever. I mean, you can have it where, they're doing these tasks or whatever. Maybe like a few of them die in The Force Awakens, and then The Last Jedi, the remainder of the Knights of Ren also die, so then it's just Kylo Ren and Snoke, or should have just been Lumia, but, but, because Lumia, like I said, was one of the former hands of the Emperor, so at least with her character, it would make sense. It's like, well, then who the hell is Snoke and why is he in charge? Which I'm thinking they will address it either in a book or in the next movie. But, when you're not able to establish these characters correctly and stuff and give the details and all that, in these movies, you're making a bad movie. It's a bad thing. Kind of like with The Force Awakens, it's like, well, when you have to, write in books or whatever and stuff to fill in the gaps for these movies, when it just takes like 5 minutes or something like that, when there's certain scenes or dialogues that could have just been switched to give some detail on the First Order, where they come from and stuff, and how they formed and all that, that's something that needs to be addressed. So, because in Battlefront 2, it's that whole, again, journey to The Force Awakens, Last Jedi thing, where, they still don't touch on anything on how the First Order was created. So I don't know. I give up with this stuff. I mean, I think, if I was involved you guys would be getting the Yushing Monk War. That's what you would be getting. But I would not take a lot of elements from the books. I would be like, no one wants Chewbacca to die and get killed by a moon and stuff. I mean, I know he helped get an entire planet evacuated and stuff, but it also got Anakin Solo killed, and I'm just like, we don't need another Anakin getting killed. We don't need Chewbacca getting killed by a moon and stuff, and then this stuff causing, down the path of Jason Solo to become Darth Chaos. And then here's the other thing though. When I was watching Force Awakens and I noticed that Han got killed by Kylo Ren, I'm like, wait a minute, he killed a family member. That is Jason Solo killing Mara Jade Skywalker. Like, they're taking these little things from Legends and stuff and throwing them in there, but it's like, it's like, guys, just take those actual stories and stuff that are actually pretty good. Like, I have like 3 favorite authors from the Legends. My first favorite one is Karen Travis. Like, she is great. And then my other one is Timothy Zahn. Well, actually, no, he's my third. My second one is, I know I'm going to get his last name wrong, but it's Drew Karpyshyn, the guy who helped do stuff with Mass Effect and the Knights of the Old Republic, but then also wrote the other books. I know he did the Darth Bane trilogy, and I know he did like the Knights like the Old Republic Revan book too, and then he also wrote some books for. I think he did some books for Mass Effect. I'm not sure, but yeah, I can. And then there's Timothy Zahn, because he did the 3 Thrawn books for Legends, and now he's doing 2 new ones, which it's like, okay, but yeah. So yeah, it just all they had to do was just go to these writers or something. At least with Karen Travis, I think. Let me check. I'm gonna check right now. Actually, I want to check her credentials. No, not Karen Gillian, I don't care. Oh, so she did Gears of War, Halo, and G.I. Joe. Let's see, she's an author. Bibliography, Star Wars. Yeah, so she did Hard Contact, 000, True Colors, Order 66, and 501st. Oh, that's the Imperial. Yeah, I read that one. And then she did the Clone Wars novelization of the film, and No Prisoners. She did Bloodlines, Sacrifice, and Revelation. So she did those. And she did some short stories for Star Wars. Comics, essays, features, Guide to the Grand Army of Eleven Stars. Sorry, I thought she wrote some. I remember she did other stuff. Maybe it's in her biography. A journalist, right? And has also served in both the Territorial Army and the Royal Army Walks early. This. Okay, well, okay, yeah. So she wrote like at least a number of Star Wars books, but I thought she did like writing for like television or something like that. But I don't know. But they should have at least consolidated, or some of these authors at least, about these characters, because they're literally just ripping stuff from Legends and then just rewriting them. Which, if I remember correctly, that's right. If I remember correctly, I believe there was a 3rd Death Star in Legends. I don't think the it was being created by the Imperial Remnants or anything like that. It was being created, I think, by the Hutt Cartel. They are trying to create their own Death Star, which they have the money and stuff, I guess, to do it. But yeah, of course, when I was seeing a lot of these ships, like with the Dreadnought and stuff, this is another stuff taken from Legends. That ship is actually something taken from Legends, I believe. What was it, the Eclipse class or something like that, where it was like the super dreadnought ship or whatever, but it had pretty much the same capabilities as a Death Star. They just take stuff from Legends. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, sorry, I went over an hour on this, and I was not trying to, but got rambling there. So, but yeah, it's just. Oh, like I said, I would have done the Yushing Vong War, but if I was in charge and I think it's something that Kathleen Kennedy was saying, hey, I want to do it in this way, so, that's what they had to work with. And also, I just want to make sure my TV doesn't turn off, because I think it has one of those things where it actually turns off on its own. Well, if only if it's out of the app. But, yeah, I think it's just we got this trilogy because this is not what Disney wanted, I think. But I think what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to go. Like, she wanted to retell the original trilogy, but with these new characters and stuff. So, Disney's just like, okay, well, as long as it makes us money, but. But yeah, I think no, I'm done again. I'm gonna end this, but yeah, hopefully there's some things in this that you understand and hopefully agree with. If not, hey, that's fine. If everyone agree on everything, it would either be good or bad depending on what we would agree on. So, but yeah, I still do think this movie sucks. There's no way anyone can change my mind, honestly, on that. Like, there's just nothing there. Nothing. Would it matter if, there's, this really attractive girl or came up to me and say, hey, this is why, just because she's pretty and, she says why, it's, that does not work. It's not like, some you couldn't persuade me in any possible way to say why this movie is great and stuff. I know that there's some cool moments. Like, it's a movie that, it's just another one of those movies that has cool moments, really. But other than that, the whole story on a whole, just, it sucks. And we have to use so many plot points, well, not plot points, but story points and stuff, all this, from the original trilogy to put it into your new one, it's like, that's not original. The series needs to be original. The original trilogy is original. The prequels is original. There's some original things in there, but then it's mixed in with things that were already done. Like, you can't be doing that. So, but yeah, I'm done. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll do another video on my thoughts on this stuff or whatever. I don't know. I was planning on doing this actually a couple days ago or something like that, but or at least earlier this week. But I think maybe on Monday, because what was it yesterday? I don't know. I work 10-hour days and stuff, so from Tuesday to Friday, but not yesterday. Yesterday was a short day, but I wanted to get out of there. We were having the office Christmas party. I didn't want to eat. I knew what I wanted to eat for lunch. I wanted to have Taco Bell, and boy did I have some Taco Bell. I went there and I got this Crunch Out Supreme meal, and I got the Nachos Bel Grande meal. So I came home and I did not eat until, I don't know. I was pretty well stuffed. I love my Taco Bell. So. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up and stuff. I know it's probably just a mixed bag of whatever, but yeah, it's just, it is what it is. If you like it, that's cool. Me personally, I hope this movie does not make $1 billion, but there's a part of me that says it's gonna make $1 billion just because it's Star Wars and you know people just like bad movies. I mean, it is bad. Like I've watched these other videos and stuff, and you know, I mean, all you have to do is just go, Star Wars Last Jedi sucks or sucked or whatever and stuff, and you'll just see some of these, really good arguments on why this movie is bad, and then you look at them, it's like, man, that's actually right. Like, I mean, I went in expecting certain things to happen. I was expecting, Luke to actually fight Kylo Ren and beat his ass and stuff, not to do these Matrix moves and stuff and be an astral projection of himself, and then fade away from exhaustion and all that. Just because. And here's the thing, I was watching this one video, doing this, how it said this foreshadowing where she's, well, except that's not, well, here's the thing. When those two are talking to each other, it's mainly because that's Snoke doing that. That's Snoke. He was making those two like talk to each other and stuff. So, because Kylo's like, why is the Force doing this? Like, well, it's because it's Snoke doing that. Like, I know like maybe like one or two people like missed that or whatever. And I know there was this one video where this one guy was confused on how DJ knew the plan of the Resistance. Like, well, because Poe is talking so loud, and Finn and Rose are talking so loud about it that DJ turns around and listens in on it and stuff. So that's how DJ found out. I mean, that I do that, and I think probably a good majority of the audience members would know why the ships were getting destroyed and how DJ found out about it. It's because he's right there, and they're just like several feet away from him. Like, he can hear them if they're talking pretty loud about it. So, but yeah, I watch these other videos. I think they actually do make some pretty good, solid arguments on why this movie sucks. I mean, it is bad. And it's one of those movies that doesn't work. But like I said, already, Knights of Ren, they should have had a more prominent role in Force Awakens and in this movie stuff. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. So I still, well, let's see, I gave it a 2 out of 5 on Rotten Tomatoes. And here I gave it like a 5 out of 10, or like I would give it like a 4 out of 10 at least. It's just, I mean, I look at this movie and stuff, and like, man, that's disgusting with Luke, milking that one cow and then drinking right out of it. It's like, first of all, I'm not coming to a Star Wars movie to see that. Because when I'm watching that part, I'm like, Ray, I'm like, that's disgusting. But yeah, the whole thing with Ray flicking her fingers and stuff, I'm like, how many times does she have to fucking do this? Once is enough. Like, I would be like, this, I'm like, oh, okay, like, so this is going on or whatever. And there was a part, I guess she was supposed to kill a sea monster or something like that, which would have been cool and stuff. But yeah, anyways, that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna stop this. So yeah, bye.